And returns fraud is huge. That's one of the biggest unlocks here that I see, and the way in which people can take advantage of their RFID investment, where you have to have a serialized identity in there to count it. And then you can insert that into a 2D barcode. And why a 2D barcode? Because you need a 2D, that barcode can hold more data. It can hold a longer identifier than the UPC. It can hold a serial number. It can hold a batch or a lot number.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Conversations on Retail and the University of Arkansas Supply Chain Department. My name is Mike Graen, and I am thrilled to be back in the podcast studio with Gena Morgan today. Gena is the Vice President at GS1 US. And we're going to talk a little bit about GS1 US, but really about some of the stuff that just happened at GS1 Connect. Because selfishly, I was not able to make it because of travel commitments. So I'm interested in hearing all about it. So, Gena, why don't you unmute and introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, thanks, Mike. It's a thrill to be here again. I always enjoy our conversations on retail. I am Gena Morgan. I lead our standards team at GS1 US, and I also lead our effort around next level data carriers, moving from the humble UPC code, which is where GS1 got its start, to data carriers like RFID and 2D barcodes. So I have lived that world for a lot of my 25 years dealing with GS1 US, and it never gets old. I thoroughly enjoy it.
I can't even vaguely remember days before UPCs, where you literally had pricing guns that went and then you had people keying in 29 cents, 32 cents, et cetera, at the register.
Yeah.
How did we survive? How in the world did we survive in that environment?
I don't know, but I always wanted one of those pricing guns. I'll tell you that, when I was a little kid, and it was not too long after that they moved to the UPC. I was a little kid when that happened, a very young kid. But it's hard to believe that that's how we rang people out, and that's how we actually had to write on a piece of paper what the inventory was. It's amazing the places we've gone in 50 years.
It's kind of scary, isn't it? But well, you've been part of the retail industry. You started out in retail, which was fascinating. We talked a little bit last time, but you've been part of GS1 for over 25 years. Tell the audience who may not know what GS1 US does a little bit about the important role that GS1 plays in the industry.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we were formed by industry, the grocery industry in particular, to develop the standard around the UPC barcode to make checkout more efficient. And so that was 1974, June 26th. I probably said that on the last pod. And in that 51 years, we've evolved who we are as an organization from just a use case of speed up checkout to one where our product identification and multiple data carriers that can carry that identification are leveraged to then share information about the entire supply chain. So not just speed at checkout, but inventory management, the journey a product takes from farm to fork even can all be enabled by the system of standards that GS1 has created by industry and with industry. It is the most widely used system of standards in the globe, with over 10 billion beeps a day at point of sale. But again, it's really the underpinning of supply chain efficiency for over 35 industries around the world.
Wow. Now tell us about GS1 US versus GS1. Is there one for every country? How does that, and how do you guys all work together to make sure something that's scannable in the US is also scannable in Mexico, et cetera, et cetera? How do you do that?
It's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. GS1 is a standards organization, and we are a federation. And so we have a global office, and the responsibility of the global office is to do that standards development. And then there are 118 member countries or member organizations around the globe whose focus is really about driving adoption and use of the standards that get developed at a global level. We ensure that those standards and how they are developed are done so in a way that brings efficiency and effectiveness to our members so that they can save money, move things faster, and all those sorts of things. So it is a broad reaching and very robust standards uh, development process.
Gena, I want to switch a little bit into GS1 Connect. Because again, unfortunately, I couldn't go to GS1 Connect this year because I had travel commitments, et cetera. But there was a whole buzz about what was going on in Nashville. And I'm assuming it's not just because there's great music there, but you had a lot of really important content to share with the industry. Give us a little bit of sneak peek about what kinds of things you talked about from a enablement standpoint.
Well, I would be remiss if without saying that Nashville is a really great place to have a conference, and it is our premier conference. Happens June of every year. We're going to Vegas next year, so everybody mark your calendars. But yeah, it was one of our best showings yet from an industry conversation standpoint. We had a number of different end users talk about things like Sunrise 2027 and how they're already testing and they're preparing to move to being able to read and process the new barcode. And also, if you're a brand, what it's taking to apply that barcode. So we had a tremendous amount of different sessions across industries, whether it was apparel and general merchandise, leveraging their investments in RFID by encoding those into a 2D barcode and what use cases those could unlock, to retail grocery. And they're our origin story. And so they are really kind of moving us to 2D barcodes and how that really unlocks a lot with respect to a product telling and revealing its own story about itself, both to the consumer, but in the supply chain as well. And then one of my favorite parts of the conference was we had an entire interactive Beyond the Barcode exhibit where we could share with our attendees hands-on what it means to move to this new barcode, what use cases that unlocked, and demonstrate the capability right there. So we had the opportunity to really help people see and understand the unlock that moving to the next generation of barcodes could do for their business. The second thing that was really critical as far as our conference was the content that we had around regulatory and FSMA 204. Even though that has been delayed in its implementation for a couple of years, industry needs to get ready for that now. And we have robust content on how to get ready. Again, some hands-on workshops there on what you need to look for and what you need to prepare for that we put on, but also had a lot of industry voices talking about what they're doing and the importance of standards and the use of standards from a data content standpoint to comply with 204. Similarly, in the healthcare sector, there's been a regulatory driver there, DSCSA, Drug Secure Supply Chain Act, it's been over 10 years now, but it's really ramped up into the requirements necessary for that. And our standards underpin that. It's not just about unique identification or whether it's in a GS1 data matrix or whatnot, but our standard around data sharing and serialized data sharing, UPCs, is really core to complying with the rules for that as well. So we had robust content around regulatory, and then you couldn't have a conference today without talking about AI. And a lot of our keynotes, speaking engagements were around AI. As long as I've been at GS1, we've been talking about master data, but it reveals itself in the value as these technologies come that make our life and our business more better, not more better, but better. And it's really foundational to all of it is quality data. And so that was another key takeaway from the conference. We also got to go to the Grand Ole Opry, which was fantastic. And yeah, that was one of our networking events, and there were puppies.
Oh, gotta have puppies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the things you just said, AI, everybody asked me, well, what role does RFID and all this other stuff have on AI and what the implications are? I said, well, the first time ever, AI requires one thing, and that's quality data.
Yeah.
We've never been able to give quality data. You remember the master files that Procter and Gamble was spelled 18 different ways, and all that kind of stuff, and that still exists out there. You put AI on a bunch of garbage data and you're going to get garbage results. So it's not the AI's fault. It's just the lack of the data. So, well, I'm really curious on a couple of use cases that, frankly, I am standing up with some companies right now. I'm seeing more and more companies leveraging RFID. They've been leveraging it for a long time for inventory. What do I have and where's it located? But they're now starting to use it for asset protection purposes, specifically what went through the register and what went through actually left the store. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And most people out there are still going, I scanned 5 UPC or G10s and 10 jeans left the store, and here's the unique serial number. There's no way in the world to match up which 5 got paid for and which 5 got stolen, right?
Right.
You're saying with GS1 and actually leveraging that serialized data in the 2D barcode, we can actually tell people which one got sold at the register without installing, thousands of dollars of hardware at point of sale, correct? Walk us through how that might work.
Yeah. You mentioned it. You said it. Like the key there is serialized data. So I know the specific instance that left, and that it got paid for. And so if somebody tries to return that back to me, I know whether it was paid for or if it was stolen. And returns fraud is huge. That's one of the biggest unlocks here that I see, and the way in which people can take advantage of their RFID investment, where you have to have a serialized identity in there to count it. And then you can insert that into a 2D barcode. And why a 2D barcode? Because you need a 2D, that barcode can hold more data. It can hold a longer identifier than the UPC. It can hold a serial number. It can hold a batch or a lot number. It can be in a format that can then link you to other information about it. And so now, with the equipment and the capital investment that you have at your point of sale, you can capture that serialized data with a scan of the barcode, and in capturing that and setting that to a sold status so that you can prevent things like returns fraud.
Yeah. Incredible. Incredible. Now,
Yeah.
here's the $64,000 question. As usual, GS1 is out in front of the industry setting the standards before the business need arrives. We still have this challenge where we've got great big retailers like Walmart and Macy's and, Nordstrom's and Dick's Sporting Goods who've all deployed RFID, but there's not the 2D barcode on the actual item. How do we catch that up? Because in order to be able to do that, you either have to install equipment that reads RFID tags at point of sale. And I'm sure the hardware folks in the world would love to do that, but that's not necessarily necessary. How do we go back and retrofit the industry to put the 2D barcode and put that serialized G10 into the actual 2D barcode so we can actually leverage that? Do you have any ideas there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are companies doing that today. And both on the retail side and the brand side. Okay. One of the first things that we look at, and I'll just stick to apparel right now, is does it have a QR code on there today for a consumer engagement experience? And, a lot of brands do find that's a way to engage with my consumer and for me to see how consumers through their phone are interacting with my product. There's a lot of data to collect there. And so we find that there are QR codes on things today. Now, how you jump from there to what we are talking about here is really by the insertion of a standardized syntax in that QR code. So today, what's in there is just like a website, right? And it's a URL to a website. Our standard, in particular, the GS1 Digital Link standard, is a syntax that makes it web resolvable, but it also embeds the UPC code and the serial number, just like you said. So now, and it's in a structure and a syntax that the scanner knows how to go grab the information that's important to it, and then it can still serve up a consumer experience. So there's really benefit to the brand and on multiple levels. They can still engage with their consumer, but then they can actually save on some packaging space eventually by dropping the 1D barcode, because now I can do all my supply chain operations. It's happening today. We had a retailer at our Connect conference who is already prepared and has done the first scan of a 2D barcode at their point of sale. They're based in Arkansas, by the way,
Love it.
and proved that out. And some of those use cases that we talked about earlier are really kind of the drivers there. As with any industry initiative like this, I think I tell this story a lot, and internally, as the expectations to drive this industry initiative are high. The barcode was scanned in 1974 in June. By the end of the 70s, only 1% of retailers were really able to read that UPC code. So all these industry initiatives take time. Now, fast forward to 2025, it's not going to take us as long as it did to reach ubiquity in scanning UPC codes because of all of the technology advancements, but it does take time. I expect, and one of our goals is that we will have major market mover retailers with the capability to scan this barcode in the next year to 2 years. And then that just kind of drives the brands to make the investment to do so as well. I think what's interesting about 2D barcodes, and as I mentioned, like it unlocks the ability for a brand to engage with their consumer in multiple different ways to get that brand awareness and loyalty. And so there are just as many benefits for the brand in this case to have a 2D barcode that also replicates what's in the RFID tag as it is for a retailer. Now, there are benefits on both sides, and so I do expect that retailers will want to take advantage of 2D barcodes and what that brings from an asset protection standpoint, which also benefits the brand, by the way. And then it also allows the brand to do that consumer engagement. I think that it won't necessarily take a mandate because there is value on both sides. But what it takes to really do a step change in technology is industry coming together and say, it's time. That's really what it takes, is an understanding of the value on both sides and then industry coming together, which is what we do at GS1. We convene industry together to say, this is what will bring benefit to the whole, and then it starts to take off. Now you do have to get the tip of the spear folks bought in, which we have a lot of those types that are bought in to drive the flywheel or spin the flywheel, but it won't take 20 years.
Yep. Well, good. Well, I have a recommendation on where you could start, because
Okay.
it's going to be tough to retrofit apparel. They're already out there. They're out there in droves, et cetera. But as you and I well know, where the area where serialized data is becoming much more relevant than it ever has before is in the food industry, in retail, specifically baked items, packaged meat, ready to serve meals, because in addition to just what do I have and where is it located, which RFID does a very good job, when does this product have to be marked down for a quick sale? And when does it have to be destroyed because it's out of date, right? And if we could figure out how to put 2D barcodes on bread and packages of meat and things like that, think about ringing up a package of bread at a register and it goes, sorry, this product's out of date. We're going to run back and get you a fresh one because we're not going to send you home with outdated product. Can you imagine? Consumers would probably be A, frustrated because they didn't, they don't want to wait, but B, go, well, thank you. I really don't want it anyway. But that to me is a big unlock to be able to use this for the food business. So maybe we start there with people who are interested in coming up with a way, because there's no competitive advantage of how you do that. It's all using, RFID and industry standards that are developed by GS1.
Yeah, I really love that use case so much for a few reasons. Food waste, you actually could roll in the recall use case into it as well, doing targeted recalls. I think what's important to understand why you could get started there is those types of products, or perimeter of store products is what I call them: meat, seafood, bakery. The store is in control of those typically, or what's marked on the product is a a label that has the ability to print a barcode at slower speeds, right? You're not talking about bags of chips and cans of soda that are at such a fast line of speed. And remember, the more dynamic data you have in a barcode, that QR code is unique. It's unique every time you change the serial number. That one QR code is different from the next. So look, I believe there's going to be a time when everything's serialized. Cans of Coke or soda. Don't mean to call out one. Cans of soda. Sorry.
You do live in Atlanta. So
I'm from the South, and you know that everything's called a Coke. You want a Coke? Yeah, what kind? Sprite. Sorry. Anyway, there will come a day where everything is serialized, but that will come in phases where the technology and the capital investment and the chains out of the lines there's a roadmap to that, right? But as you talked about, in those areas of food where you could really prevent food waste and all of those types of things, that is where you can get started and get started quickly. And it also allows you, in many instances where things are on the food traceability list for FSMA 204, as I mentioned, it allows you to embed that and understand, get that richer data into that barcode as well to comply with what reporting things you have there.
Got it. All right. So where do you think we are really? Are we on schedule for Sunrise 2027? Are we off schedule? Are we ahead of schedule? Kind of what's your perspective as an industry expert of where we are versus where you thought we would be?
Well, I first want to say it's a sunrise, not sunset.
I always do that. I'm sorry.
No, you said sunrise, but it's sunrise, not sunset.
I have called it sunset before.
Yeah, but what I mean by that is, it will be gradual. There's not a cutoff date where we're going to all of a sudden not see UPC codes on things, right? And it will be phases of areas of the store where a retailer sees the benefit that they get by having additional data in that, in the food, in the bakery, and all of those areas. We are seeing, and there are products on shelf today that include the GS1 digital link. And so that syntax is in there with the UPC code. Now, it doesn't necessarily have dynamic data today, but that's a great place to get started. And so you'll see that on shelves today. And we talk about this, Mike, in crawl, walk, run. So if you want to, if you're a fast moving consumer goods company, and again, line speeds are like this, you can get started today. Just put the UPC code in there. The only requirement for Sunrise 2027 on the retailers is to be able to read it and extract the UPC and go beep once. And so you could get started today if you're like a center store manufacturer, and I suggest you do. And I also suggest you probably have QR codes on those products, and it's just a matter of replacing a proprietary URL with a GS1 digital link. So retailers, I will say, I'll say this generally speaking, across the globe, there's a lot of progress. The US is, and this is typical as well with a lot of these types of initiatives, we are catching up to the rest of the globe. And so I do think there will be a step change within the next 12 to 18 months on what we see with respect to implementations at retail, as well as the actual 2D barcodes with the right syntaxes in them within the brands.
Gotcha. I am sure we've piqued some listeners' interest on this topic. Where can they go to get more information from GS1 US about this whole digital link Sunrise 2027 initiative?
Thanks for the question, Mike. We are always available as a team at GS1 US to educate, and we actually have a webinar to educate folks coming up on October 21st. But additionally, if your company is ready to just get some more information, you can go to gs1us.org/smarter for the smarter barcode.
Smarter barcode.
Yeah.
Barcode. Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and put that in the description of this podcast as well. So if people want to be able to link directly to that. So Gena, always a very entertaining with you. Question for you. What did I not ask that I should have? What's on your mind? And you say, I sure would like to send one or two messages to the industry. You have a platform to be able to do that. And any closing comments or anything else that you want to share with us about what's going on from an industry standpoint?
Yeah, I think in closing, I would just say, this is the wave of the future. It's not even the future, it's here right now. The technology is here right now. It's just a matter of planning. And 2027 is like tomorrow. So it's time to start to think about incorporating this into roadmaps. If you're a retailer, your point of sale upgrades, and really for the requirement for 2027, it's a lot of just scanner firmware upgrades. But start now. Like, the time is now. We can help you get started, but it should begin to start to be part of your product roadmaps, whether you're a brand or a retailer.
Awesome. And what were the dates for GS1 Connect next year? Because I'm going to make this one.
It's the first week of June. So let me just, you stumped me there, Mike. I am going to say it is the week of June the 8th, and it will be at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Should be a good time. And we'll have lots of stories about 2D barcodes and RFID tags and all the cool stuff and the use cases that unlocks.
Yeah, but how are you going to top the Grand Ole Opry?
No. It was pretty special, I have to say. The pressure's on.
I've got an idea for you. I don't know if you can all afford it. I've been to it twice, and I'm kind of that AV geek. I run all the sound and audio for our church. Tickets to the Sphere would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I'll meet you there.
Yeah, you can't. No, it's a GS1 could buy out the Sphere and just. No,
we're a not-for-profit organization, Mike Graen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But make that part of your travel plans. It's one of the coolest things in Vegas for sure. So, Gena, as always, very, very educational. Thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. We'll put links to all of the websites and things that you just mentioned. But folks, if you're not involved with GS1 Sunrise 2027 and the digital link, and especially if you're already involved with RFID, it is the future. So we encourage you to get involved with it, learn from the website, go to GS1 Connect, etc. Tremendous organization. And I really love the fact that GS1 always seems to be out in front of it. I mean, you came up with the EPCIS database methodology 10 years ago, and nobody even knew what it was. But now it's like, wow, where's that been all my life? It's been there for 10 years or however long. 20 years? 20 years. Yeah. All
right. 18.
Fair enough.
That was before its time for sure. Mike, thank you. You're such a great supporter of GS1. And I know that's because you're former P&Ger and know what standards can do for the supply chain. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Gena.
Bye.